Hello, bonjour, welcome. My name is Elder. Welcome back to the Open Debate. We're going to be having another interesting conversation, an interview with Duallibra. We're just getting started. We're just going to get going. This conversation is going to be centered around all things paranormal, philosophical, anything a little bit out there, a little bit outside the ordinary. It's going to be an interesting conversation for the group of people that are here to listen. If you're listening in the future, thank you for being here. And if you're showing up, make sure that you tap the screen, share the stream out to anybody who would be interested in the conversation. But we're just getting started, and I'm waiting for Dua to come into the conversation. Once she does, I will bring her in, and we will start the conversation. But like I said, we're going to talk about all things paranormal. We're going to talk about philosophical discussions, conspiracies, spiritual topics, God-like things, lots of different things tonight. It's going to be relaxed, it's going to be easy. Any sort of conspiracies that you have, that you like, that you've heard of, we're here to talk about, to listen to. And yeah, we're going to be chilling out, we're going to be relaxing, and I appreciate everybody showing up to the conversation. So, Du is going to be joining us in just a few moments, but before she does, I would like to send out a word of appreciation to everybody who's showing up here. We have been focusing on interviews the last week or so, and we will be focusing on interviews for the next foreseeable future, one-on-one conversations with different people. And I really do appreciate everybody who comes into the conversation, that keeps a level head, that keeps it cool, and is here for the conversation. I think that we're learning a lot more about each individual point of view, and throughout the next week we have a lot of different perspectives to hear. Tonight we have Dua, and it's all about spirituality, witch talk, all sorts of crazy stuff like that. Tomorrow we have Saint coming on. He's a full-blown communist, a really interesting guy, a younger guy who's a really well-versed human being. On Thursday, I have a debate lined up with Mole Man, or I don't know what the other name is, but an interesting human being who wants to discuss the idea of straw man arguments, propaganda, and things along that nature. He believes that I fall into the line of individuals who exhibit these things. So that's what we'll be doing Thursday. Friday night we have Big Red, or Chris Barber, one of the individuals from the convoy, the original convoy, coming into the conversation. So that will be fun. That will be good. And yeah, so we have the next week lined up, and then next week following we have quite a few individuals going into the schedule. So things are going well, things are lining up, and I really do appreciate you all coming out to the conversation. I love what we're learning and how we're building this this community of people who are here for the type of discussions and conversations that we're having. So if you're into it, make sure that you tap the screen, share the stream. We're already up to almost 300 likes and a share out there. I think it was just from me, but I'm trying to get Dua in here. Not too sure where she is. She was putting her child to bed a little bit earlier, and she will be in when she is able. But if anybody out there has any opinions around spirituality, the idea of philosophy, or conspiracy theories, and the way that people exhibit those, make sure that you drop a comment below, and I'll make sure that we get those questions in with this conversation. But I see that Brooklyn has sent her an antagonizing message to get her here. She should be here any moment. I know that she, everybody is busy. We all have our own lives. We all have things to do. And it is okay. It is fine. I know that she is busy, but she will be here very soon, and we will get the conversation started. We have a lot of interesting topics on the docket throughout the evening, especially pop culture. We're going to be discussing that as well, things that are in the mainstream news atmosphere, things like, interesting stories that we are all following, that we see, that we hear, that we discuss, but don't often discuss together. Yeah. Come on, man. Where's Shiva? Where's Shiva? Duallibra. Come on in. I don't know. She's around. She's getting here. But I appreciate you all. Make sure that you tap the screen, share the stream. If Dual never comes in, Duallibra, Dua, if she never comes in, then we will open up the topic to just random discussions. But yes, the topic this evening is spirituality with me and Dua. We're having an interview around her ideologies, her content, and where she's coming from. But yes, she's being fashionably late, and that's the only way to rock it these days, right? It's 2023. If you show up on time, what are you? What are you, new? So I can't hold that against anybody. I appreciate it. We're here hanging out, and we will rock it until she gets here. I did tell her that I could talk a little bit before she came into the conversation if she needed a few extra moments, but that's what I'm doing here, rambling on as I normally do. So what's going on inside your heads, guys? Do you believe that she's here, she's coming in. Do you guys believe that we're going to have a good conversation tonight? How do you feel about the previous conversations that you've seen? And would you give me any feedback in the future? I'm always down for that. You probably sent it to my other account, says Dua, and I may have even sent it to her other account. She has many accounts, but I see that I believe I put up the right one. We'll see when she comes in. But she's about to come in. It's, one of those things. Fashionably late? Yes, that's what you need to be. Once again, in 2023, we don't play any games. It's all about that stylistic entrance. And she has now entered the chat. We're all excited to hear what's going on inside your head. So Duallibra, if you want to come on in, request to join, and I will bring you in. And we'll get the conversation started. I'm excited. I'm excited to hear what's going on inside your head. There's Dua down there, coming on into the conversation. Oh, double claps. I see that your video's not in. It doesn't need to be on. That's okay. You can leave it off if that's how you choose to be. Oh my gosh. Video's on. I appreciate that. Thank you for coming out. It's awesome to talk to you tonight. Thank you for being here.
Thanks for having me. I'm so nervous.
Oh, don't be nervous. We're just here for a regular conversation. Don't worry about that. It's going to be a relaxed conversation, and if you ever need to, I think you can just swipe on your screen and get rid of the comments. And so we're just going to be chilling out, relaxing. But no, everybody was talking about you being fashionably late, and I think that is the perfect description. It showed a little bit of class. It showed something that you brought to the table, and I appreciate that. Thank you for being here.
Does it have to be like I'm late because this isn't school or a job?
Well, that's why you feel like you're in class, because everyone's like, she's not here. You're not on time. Everybody else was in class. Everybody else showed up. Yeah. That's right. It's just relax. You don't have to be on time. There is no time. Time is a made-up concept. We're here to talk about all sorts of weird things like that this evening, right? And so it's about what? Time is a made-up concept. It's not even real. I appreciate you taking those precautions with your indulgences this evening.
That's what I was going to say. Like, I don't know. I feel like you'll get banned if I don't, so I'll have to...
It's not that I get banned. It's just that the stream has an algorithmic artificial intelligence that does monitor what's going on, and it knows what's going on. It knows. So, got to be careful.
Yeah, I have to smoke my devil's lettuce off to the side.
Well, that's okay. It doesn't matter about what it is. They don't like tobacco smoke the most because it's bad for your health. So they don't want to promote negative health things to younger people. I don't think a lot of people, nobody wants to promote negative health attributes to younger people. But regardless, I'm going to start the stream off. So with that being said, my name's Elder. Welcome back to the Open Debate. I have Duallibra here on to the channel. Thank you for joining. I appreciate you being here tonight. We're going to be talking about all things that interest you, I hopefully believe, and things that interest me as well. And I'm excited. I'm very stoked to discuss things with you tonight. I think it's going to be relaxed, a laid-back discussion. And yeah, how are you feeling?
Not too bad. A little nervous because, you know how some people can be on the internet.
I know. I do know that. But we have talked a few times before. So take a step back from the feeling of what's going to happen and think about what happened before. And now think about it just being a one-on-one discussion between you and I. Things will be okay. If I can make anything better, I'm going to start off with the first question because I have a whole bunch of stuff written down here for the discussion this evening. So, my first question to you is, how would you describe your content? When did you come onto TikTok and why do you make it?
Um, I don't like to consider it content because I just kind of feel like I'm just like existing on the internet. Like I don't. So, what was the second question again?
So, it's why did you like, sorry. It's,
What is my content?
w- like, what is your content and why did you start creating it on
Oh,
TikTok
okay.
specifically?
Okay. Well, because I feel like as a millennial, like we just kind of migrate to different apps, you know? And TikTok was just like the new one. Like we went from Facebook and then we had Twitter and Tumblr and like that's just where we exist online. And now everybody exists on TikTok online. So that's I guess why I started making content because I want to exist online as well in some form. Because I feel like you don't exist to people if you're not online. You know what I mean? Like I feel like I might as well be like living in the forest, like off grid by myself. Like if I'm not going to exist somewhere on the internet and like be able to talk to people because that's our life now. Like that's society. Like we're online. So,
Mhm. It's kind of the equivalence to living off grid or being in the forest if you don't have a social media presence. Um,
mhm.
so that does make a lot of sense as to why you would be here. So what type of content are you creating just to solidify who you are a little bit and like a little bit more about your personality? Because I didn't give you a proper introduction because I'm a terrible host.
I mean, I talk about stuff that I would talk about with like my friends if I had friends in real life. Like I don't wake up like I see videos of like, you know, there's certain accounts on here that are dedicated to telling you what to do to get your engagement up and like this is how you go viral and stuff. And that's fine for some people like they wake up and they want to like treat this like they're like a marketing campaign, like they're trying to brand themselves in some way shape or form, but like I just don't I mean like I would like to be able to create an alter ego and be like a, this sounds stupid, but like a Hannah Montana where like I can exist somewhere as one person, but like also still be me. Like, I don't know. But I don't like have a specific brand. I don't just create content that is like any I don't create content. I don't guess. Like I just I have a thought that I want to share with somebody and I just post it on TikTok, you know?
Mhm.
Because
So
I
you
don't have
use it as
anybody really to
more.
share it with. Like, I don't have people to share my thoughts with that are like, because my thoughts are weird, right? My thoughts are like kind of like philosophical and conspiracy based, and nobody cares about that. Like, nobody wants to hear that.
Well, that's not true because clearly the individuals that follow
Well,
your
yeah.
content do want to hear about
Yeah.
it. So
But
you're
it's like
saying
a
that it's
needle
more
in a
so an
haystack.
ideology. Yeah, well, I don't agree with that. I do think that there are quite a few people. It's just about being exposed to that group of individuals.
Yeah,
It's
I
almost as
guess.
though you use social media here on TikTok as a diary of sorts that is open to people that you believe will have some interesting thing to say about what you are discussing.
Yeah, I suppose. And if they trigger me, I just block them.
Hmm. That's the idea of not using TikTok as a way to push an agenda of your own. It's something you're using it for a different reason. And so if somebody's here
Hmm.
to dispute what you're discussing, that's not really what your jam is. That's not what you're here to do. You're not here to debate people. You're not here to
Yeah.
have
I'm not here to
political or feel like,
argue. I'm not here to
Yeah,
argue
argue.
or like try to change anybody's mind or try to be like my opinion is the right opinion and everyone else's is wrong. Like I just don't care. Like I have my
And that,
opinion, other people have their opinion.
mhm. And I respect that. That's acceptable 100%. And that's one of the things that I try to understand and learn from having these discussions with people is where are you coming from and what type of content do you make? Are you the type of person that wants the engagement of individuals with oppositional mindsets, or are you somebody who wants to create content A to push an ideology that doesn't accept different views? Or are you just creating content like you are that is separate from pushing any sort of agenda? It's simply just you expressing how you feel and in a space that you feel comfortable in. And I respect everyone is creating content for a different reason. And that's why I asked this question, because you want to know where people are coming from. Some people are, like you said, very opinionated and they want you to know what they believe and they want you to believe what they believe. And
Yeah.
that's not where you're coming from. And I wanted just people to know that that's not where you are at and that's not who you are whatsoever. You are just a
I
normal
used to be
person
like
who
that.
makes. Did you? Do you want to
Yeah.
talk about that at all? How did you
I
change?
don't
Like,
care.
what changed your mind in that scenario?
Um I guess like the best way to say it is like I couldn't take the heat. Like you know that saying like this they say if you can't handle the smoke, get out of the kitchen. I can't handle the smoke. Like I'll cry. I'll have a mental breakdown. So, I if I don't want that for me, why would I be that way for other people? Because I used to be that way. Like I used to be like really high and mighty and like I was a vegetarian for a year when I was in high school, only a year, but like I was like super preachy about it and I would like try to make all of my friends watch those slaughterhouse videos. Like I was like that kind of person. I was in high
Hmm.
school, but like I was like obsessed with PETA, like, you know, people for the ethical treatment of animals and I was so like up everyone's ass about that kind of stuff. And then I just got bullied relentlessly by people and like over time I guess like in some way like I kind of shut down or like I don't know. I guess like in a sense like I went through like the stages of grief where like I was angry and then I was in denial and then I was like now I'm just like at the acceptance point of it where like I've I've been called like every name in the book. Like I've been called down like to the lowest about everything that I think. All of my opinions are wrong. Like all of my opinions are controversial. So I've gotten just to the point where like I just don't really care to express them to people anymore unless I know that they're like an open person.
Hmm. I understand that, like the idea of societal demoralization and how it isn't accepting of views that are oppositional to the mainstream ideology. That's not something that anybody really wants to go through. It's the same sort of situation as being bullied in high school or not being accepting of other opinions. It's the idea of bigotry. And I think that our society does have a large issue with not accepting oppositional points of views. But I definitely agree. Um, I definitely understand where you're coming from, and I'd love to know what got you into veganism and what was your experience through at the time that you were a vegan.
I was just a vegetarian. I wasn't a vegan, but um I'm trying to think now. Oh, okay. So I think that it started like, I guess you can say like my spiritual awakening started when I was like 14 and I went to visit my dad, who I'm like not close with at all. And his brother was like, I'm actually more closer to my uncle than my dad, but like my uncle's like into spiritual stuff, right? He was the person that introduced me to chakras and like different philosophy stuff and he was into like tai chi and like law of attraction kind of stuff So he's kind of the one that got me into all that stuff. And then, so like, I always think that when you have a spiritual awakening, when anybody has a spiritual awakening, there's like a process to it, right? Everybody starts off at like that first point where they're like just in awe of everything, and they're like, everything is a lie. And then like they move to like to the point of being like really preachy about it. They go to that level, and then they go, I don't know. I haven't fully thought through this idea, but like I just think that there's like steps to it, right? And I can tell where certain people are in that journey just based off of like their demeanor towards me. Like certain people will come at me and be like, "Wake up. Like you got to wake up." And I'm like thinking like I've probably been awake longer than this person just because I can tell that they've probably only just woke up around the pandemic, and like I've already got, so I would say my spiritual awakening started when I was like 14, so that was 2008. So I've got like 13. I'm bad at math. How long is that? 15 years almost
What
of,
what woke you up? What made you become awake?
I have no idea. I really don't.
Well, you know that you know that you've been awake for a certain amount of time, and so do you recognize anything within that time period that changed?
um I would just say that my uncle taught me certain things, but like the thing is that I've always been like, so I've before now I've always said like I've always been awake because there was always that like thing about me since I was like a child, like I was like an infant, like a baby, like a toddler, like my son's age. And people would be saying stuff about me that I wouldn't at the time. I'm just like, I have no idea what that means. Like people would call me an old soul all the time, like 2, 3 years old. They'd be like, she's an old soul. And I remember being like, I don't even know what that means. Like, what does that mean? And then like, but like as I got older, like I understood what that meant. But like, so like I guess in a sense like there's always been that part of me that was like, I was born spiritual. Like I just, it was an innate thing about me that I, and like certain things that I would do when I'm with my friends, like I would make potions and stuff with my friends, and it's like I didn't know what any of that was. Like we did call it potions, and that's probably somewhat because of the media, but I wasn't associating myself as a witch. But like when you get older, you realize, and like I used to collect rocks, and I used to like just do certain things that like people that are witchy, like they associate that with being witchy. So like I've always kind of been that way. But it wasn't until I was 14 and my uncle put names to those things for me, right? Like he kind of like, I don't
So
know how to
let me
describe
try
it.
to. I'm not trying to cut you off here, but I want to solidify something into like the next question that I'm interested in to like understand for just myself and everybody listening. Okay, so in your own personal belief, do you feel as though you prescribe to the idea of being a witch? What does being a witch mean to you? And how do you feel about witch talk? So we'll talk about these things because on your profile, it
Mm-hmm.
does describe yourself as a self-proclaimed witch. What does
Mm-hmm.
that mean to you? And how can you describe that to people who don't understand that meaning?
I think I'm still defining it myself because I've learned that like you are own, I don't even know, I'm so bad at like making my thoughts come out in words, so like if it doesn't make
You're
any
okay. You're all
sense,
fine. No, I think everybody is
sometimes like
loving
sometimes
the
I
way that
can't
you're expressing
articulate
yourself.
exactly what I'm trying to say, you know what I mean? But like I feel like we people in general, we are only what like our labels are. Like I think labels actually do matter. And I know like we're at kind of a point in society where we're always wanting to either it's either you claim labels or you don't. Like there's no in between. I feel like you know what I mean? Like some people hate labels and some people are like, I need all the labels. But I think that like that's a part of finding your identity, I guess. So like people that know who they are maybe don't feel the need to label themselves as anything, but like I feel like people that like me who are like unsure of themselves a lot and have low self-esteem maybe, and like I'm very susceptible to like other people's opinions about me. I'm susceptible to like the fact that like if a whole bunch of people say that I'm a piece of shit, like I'm probably a piece of shit. You know what I mean? And that's like how I've conditioned myself over the years. Um so in the last few years I've decided that I'm going to label myself as things that are going to help me like grasp onto an identity because I find it so hard for me myself. Like I don't feel like I have an identity. Like I have no idea who I am. Like my personality can change from day to day. I feel that. I shouldn't say my personality. I should say my moods. But then also my likes and dislikes depend on my mood. Like I'm a very like flexible person, I guess. Like I'm adaptable to like a lot of things to the point where like uh, I can't even say I'll lose myself because like sometimes I don't even fully know who I am sometimes. Like so I feel
Hmm.
like my being a self-proclaimed witch is trying to like grasp onto an identity that I am trying to, I don't know, I'm trying to like word this in the right way. I'm not trying to say like I'm trying to like play a character. It's more like who am I, like innate? Like who am I at my
Who do you
core?
feel you are?
Yeah, like who do
Where
I
does that
feel I am or
feeling
who
come
do I
from?
want to be? Like who am I, who what is going to make me proud to be alive? Because like I've struggled with suicidal thoughts my entire life. Like really really young, like 5 6 years old, I was having suicidal thoughts. So I need to have something to hold on to say like this is who I am. Remember when I'm at times where I forget who I am, I'm like remember these things about yourself. This is who you
Hmm.
are choosing to be, because when you're a person that has dealt with mental health issues from like a really young age, like the age of 5, like that's all you know. Like you didn't form a personality because your personality is like trauma. Like so that's
Yeah,
kind of, yeah.
and that is something that is very important to realize when you're discussing things with individuals, especially when they're formulating their ideologies and where they come from. You got very deep, and I do appreciate you getting deep. And I'm here for those kind of conversations. I'm here for more of them. I hope that you don't take this the wrong way when I ask you the idea of being a witch, though, itself. So I understand that had to do with the context around why you would put that in your bio. It's a way for you to recognize who you are and associate with a certain um, group of individuals. If I'm wrong, am I right? Am I wrong? Can you let me
Hmm.
know?
Yeah,
Okay.
you're pretty much
So if
right.
that so if that's the case, the question that I have for you is what does it mean to be a witch? And how can you introduce us on this platform to witch talk and what the ideologies are around that sort of thing? I have a few more questions around that
I
sort of stuff,
think,
but your
yeah,
perspective, I'd love to know.
I think that it's different for everybody. Like I think everybody who identifies as a witch identifies that differently about themselves. Like some people, and I only just learned this within the last like 6 months, 6 months to a year, that there is a difference between being a witch, being a psychic witch, and then being a psychic medium. Like they're all different. There's so like a medium can talk to the dead. Like a medium can sometimes physically see dead people and audibly hear dead people speaking to them, and they can channel that. And what's her name, the Long Island medium, like her, like she can like walk up to someone and be like, hey, I'm talking to your grandfather right now, he has a message for you. So that's a medium. And then a psychic is somebody who can see the future or like predict certain things or like read energy or whatever. But then like, yeah, the Long Island medium is fake. She's just for TV. Um, but then like a psychic medium apparently can do like all of those things, like talk to dead people and read the energy of like the future or the past or past lives and stuff like that. But like, I don't necessarily consider myself a psychic. I'm just like flexing the intuitive muscle when I make predictions. Like I'm just, because you have to practice, right? It's a sixth sense. They call it the sixth sense, right? Because you have your eyes, your ears, your mouth, your nose, and the in your hands, like to touch, like, and then your sixth sense is the ability to see things that aren't actually there. Like your third eye, basically, your mind's eye is the sixth sense. And that's something that like has been, I believe that every single person has that ability to do that. And everybody has the mind's eye. Everybody has that sense, but they don't use it. It's like the same as like if you like plugged your ears, you wouldn't be able to hear. And if that's all you knew, then you probably wouldn't know that you would be able to hear. Like, you know what I mean? If people didn't tell you that that like if you unplug your ears, you'll be able to hear stuff. So just over however long, we've been conditioned to stop using that sense. But I think that it's something that we need to use and we have to practice using. And even if you're wrong half the time, you still have to try to to flex it. It's like working out. Like when you're trying to build muscle at the gym, like you can't just do it once and it doesn't work and then you just quit. Like it has to be over a prolonged period of time, and then over so long like you have a muscle that you didn't have before. You know what I mean?
Mhm. So I think you may have brought this up, but I'm going to ask you once again. When did you first realize that you had these abilities, or that there was something a little bit different around the way that you were viewing the world?
I don't know. I think like I was saying, like I used to be like a lot different than I am now. Like I used to be like really high and mighty, and like basically I used to have a god complex. So I would always just walk around saying like I'm this and I'm that and I'm the best at everything and I can do, even though like I couldn't. Um but I would say it was probably around 2020 when I realized that like if I just like was more humble about it, like I actually do have like a knack to be able to like predict certain things, not everything. And that's the misconception I feel like people have with psychics, that like I should be able to know everything that ever happened, ever will happen, ever could happen. That's not really how it works. Like, and I can't necessarily control it either. Like I just sometimes like I get thoughts that pop into my head as fully formed thoughts, and like I didn't come up with those thoughts. You know what I mean? So, but like sometimes they're wrong, but sometimes they're not. And so like one of the biggest ones that I realized around 2020, it was COVID. I predicted COVID. And not in the sense that like I predicted that there would be a virus. I was like I watch things. Like I would consider myself more of an energy reader than um a psychic, because like I'm on the internet a lot, so it's not always just like I'm meditating. It's that I will see something on the internet And all of a sudden, like, that thought just pops into my head, like a fully formed thought. And I had that when it was, oh, I forgot I'm supposed to censor myself, when it was, the vid time. Um,
Yeah, you're good.
it was around November of 2019. And it was like the beginning of when stuff started happening in China. And I just had this really strong feeling that I was like, this is like a huge deal, like this. And nobody cared then. It was in November, like nobody was giving a shit, right? And I was like, well, this was almost 3 years ago now. Like, I was a lot more arrogant back then, and I was like preaching about this on my Facebook to like everybody I knew, and I was like, this is happening. Like, this is like, you better. I don't even remember exactly what I was saying, but I was like in your face about it. I was like, get prepared. Like, this is like a big thing. Like, this is gonna happen. Like, be scared. Be scared of this. Like, and everybody was just like, whatever. She's on her conspiracy theory shit again, right? And everybody was like calling me a conspiracy theorist, and like, no, like nobody cared, right? They all just thought I was crazy. But then it was like, then we went into the new year and it was still happening and shit was still hitting the fan. And then, as we knew, in March, like, it was here, and like it was a big deal, and it literally changed the world. And then during that time as well, I was like, I've talked about this before, but like the whole stuff with the residential schools, I was telling people about that for years, because I read about it. And this is why it's like debatable to say that I'm a psychic, because it's not like I predicted this. It didn't. I just was watching things happen and reading certain things throughout the years, and certain things stick in my mind for years and years and years, and I'll remember it. And then all of a sudden, like 10 years later, it happens, and I'm like, I knew that that was going to happen, because there's so much bullshit on the internet, right? Like, but like, for some reason that stuck with me about the residential schools, because I read that back in like probably around 2008, 2009. I was reading about the queen and how she came over here and she abducted kids and stuff like that. And I read about the fact that they said that there was unmarked graves all over Canada, and that stuck with me for years. And then when it came out, I was like, my jaw hit the floor. I was like, I knew that that was real. And everybody just calls it a conspiracy theory, you know? But it's not.
Yeah, well, not everybody calls it a conspiracy theory for sure. There are definitely, I'd say even like the majority of individuals do not call that a conspiracy theory and blindly
Not
listen
anymore.
to any information.
But
There
I'm
may be
from
people
Nova
that have a
Scotia.
point
I'm
of
from Nova
contention.
Scotia. Everybody here
True,
thinks
true.
like I am crazy. Like, I should be in a mental hospital, like, to most people around here, because they're so like close-minded. Don't get me wrong, since the pandemic, and everybody has woken up since the pandemic, like, there is a lot more people here now talking about that kind of stuff. But back prior to 2020, like this stuff is like, don't talk about this stuff, because nobody is going to take you seriously in Nova Scotia, well, in Cape Breton, I should say.
What do you mean by that? No one's going to take you seriously for conspiracy stuff, or nobody's going to
Yeah,
take, like, are they more conservative or more liberal at where you are at?
I would say it's a mix. We are a conservative province right now, but I would say it's mixed. But it's one extreme or the other, right? But to them, I'm the extremist, right? So
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm a
it
fringe
is what it is. It's
minority.
all from the perspective of the individual as well, right? And so somebody could feel as though the entire group is way more conservative. Somebody could feel as though it's more liberal, but it just depends on your own specific perception and how you view the world around you. I want to just say right now to everybody in the chat, thank you guys for coming out. I appreciate everybody that's in the chat that's giving us comments and sticking around. I appreciate you all. Make sure you tap the screen, share the stream. My name's Elder. This is the Open Debate. We're here with Duallibra for a good old conversation about all things philosophical,
I'm not being
spiritual, and
professional at all.
oh yeah, we're being very professional. We're having a good old conversation. So the second question in relation to when you first realized that you had feelings that were outside the boundaries of what the average individual would consider normal, so spiritual feelings, have
Yeah.
you always been open to receiving those feelings, or were you closed off at a certain point?
Yeah, I would say I was probably closed off for most of my life. Up until the last maybe 4 years.
Yeah, yeah. Up until the Great Awakening that is being discussed. We don't need to go into further detail. We can see the type of situations that definitely thrust us into positions that make us reflect on our lives. And it seems as though
Yeah.
that may have been one of the catalysts that made you open up and realize that
I
your
think you're
life
right.
is different than others. And so I'm going to reiterate the
Yeah.
question once again after now that you've seen that question here in the comments, and I know that in the future nobody's going to be able to see that comment, but we know what was said. We don't need to talk about it.
Wait, what?
With that being said, well, just in the future, if when I re-upload these videos, you can't see the comments. You can only just see us, so they can't like see
Oh.
in context what we're talking about because I didn't say it. But we don't. It doesn't matter. The point is, in retrospect, with that being said, I'm going to ask the question again. So, is there a certain point in your life in which you became more open or okay, sorry. I'm going to say this once again just to be completely transparent and have the question outlined because I'm not doing a very good job of playing host right now. The question is, were you always open to the spiritual and supernatural aspects of the world, or was there a certain point in your life in which this became more accessible to you?
No, I think I've always been that way. Um, have you ever heard of the Shadow Man? Is that a thing that you've ever heard of?
It depends on the context because I definitely have heard of different shadow people, the shadow man with a hat, the hat man.
Yeah,
I've heard
the
of lots
Hat
of
Man.
different conspiracy. Yeah, okay, okay.
Yeah,
The hat man.
yeah. So I saw the Hat Man when I was in like grade 2, and I didn't know what it was until this year. Until I got on TikTok and I saw people talking about it in a live, and that she was an energy reader, and I was like, holy fuck, like that's real. Like that's an actual thing that like multiple people see. And
Yeah.
I was only
No,
in grade
that's
2.
wait, what? Okay. So you were in
I was
grade
in
two
grade 2.
when you first saw him, but then you just in later in life you came to the conclusion that other
Yeah.
people had seen the same thing
Yeah.
that you had been dwelling on all of these years. And that
Yeah.
is the importance of the internet that brings individuals together when it comes to the idea of spirituality. If there's going to be something that's impacting me here in Canada and as well as you in Brazil, there may be a
Yeah.
little bit more to it than just
Yeah.
like a childhood fear.
I just assumed
There's
all
no
these
proof.
years, I
I have
just
no proof.
assumed I was seeing things. Like I was like in grade 2, right? Like you're a kid, like you see weird shit. It's a shadow. And the thing is like,
Well, you've
it
been
was like,
told that. You've been told that. And look, or let me ask you this, right? Because
yeah,
obviously, by the sounds of what you're saying, is you were not reinforced in your beliefs, and
yeah.
you were told that what you were seeing was not okay.
Mm,
Without being such a leading, like having such a leading question, what was your upbringing like, and did you have support
mm.
in the systems around spirituality growing up?
No, I was left alone to my own devices a lot because there was like a lot of drama in my house all the time. So I was like off in my own little make believe world. So that's why all these years, like I never gave any credence to that Hat Man thing. I remember it vividly, but it didn't scare me when I was a kid. It was just, I wasn't even fully sure if I seen it. I wasn't like all those years. I just assumed I was a kid and it was a figment of my imagination because I was like, I double taked like this. I was like,
Yeah.
I was in my school in the morning in grade two, and there was like nobody around, and I was wandering the halls, and I shouldn't have been. And I remember I walked down the stairs, and when I turned to go
2
down the
a.m.
other
Two,
column,
say
what?
2 a.m.
No, no, I said in the It was like the morning, like I would say, like before school starts,
Oh,
and
okay,
nobody was
sorry.
around,
I
and I
misheard
shouldn't
you.
have.
I misheard you. And I was like, 2
No, I
a.m.
said I
What were you
shouldn't have
doing in the
been.
school?
I shouldn't have been like I wasn't supposed to be wandering around the hallways like but I was, and there was like nobody was around yet, like everybody, all the teachers and all the students were outside, and I was just wandering the halls for like I don't even know
Relatable.
why. I don't even remember why, but I remember that I came down the stairs, like it came down like this, and then you would turn and go down another set of stairs. So when I came down the first set of stairs and I turned to go down the next, like I looked up, and there was like by the doors it was a shadow, but I went like this. I went like I double taked, and I seen it, and that's why I double taked. And when I looked double taked like the second time, it was gone. Like it was like a literal, like just like a split second, like a flash. And that's why all these years I was like just assumed like I was just, it was a fucking stupid shadow, or like I was imagining it. But I remember as a kid, um I thought it was so cool. And I was like trying to get all my friends to like investigate, and I wanted to be Nancy Drew, and I had like I recruited like three of my friends to like pretend like we were going to like find clues, and we were investigating the school to see if there were ghosts in the school. Like that's like I was into that, but I thought it was cool. Like I wasn't afraid of stuff like that. I thought it was cool. I
Hmm.
wanted to like investigate ghosts. So
You were
like
interested in it.
yeah, as a kid, like it was real to me as kid, but then as I grew up, I just was assumed like I was just a stupid kid and I imagined it or something. But then this was only like I want to say like around September that I was in somebody's live and they were talking about the fucking Hat Man. And I was like, that's real? And they described it, and it was exactly what I saw when I was a kid. And I was like, so that was real. I didn't just like imagine that. It's
Right.
crazy shit.
No, that's the whole thing, right? When we learn that our memories are not subjective to just ourselves, we realize that there is an idea of collective consciousness and that
Yeah.
we are all related in a way.
Yeah. And you know what they were saying in the live too is they said that the Shadow Man wasn't scary. The Shadow Man, nobody ever felt fear from the Shadow Man. It was almost as if it was like a protective figure. And then these other people said it was around that time that they seen it that they were like going through like a massive trauma in their life, and that somehow after that they always had the strength, like they got through shit, like whatever. And it's almost as if like the Shadow Man comes into a person's life and like marks them, but in a positive way, not like in a negative way, like not in a way to say like you're cursed, but in a way to say like I know you're going through shit right now, and like this human condition, it fucking sucks, but you're gonna get through it, and I'm gonna like guide you through life and make sure that you're good.
That is quite literally the and like the type of situation that we need to look at when we're trying to have a conversation around spirituality and how
Yeah.
it relates to us as human beings. And so the question around when and where did you first start realizing that these were things that impacted your life? this relates to everything that we're going to be talking about tonight because that has, in my opinion, impacted the way that you have learned and grown in your own right. And so the next question that I would have to you is, do you believe in God? And if not, what is your belief system?
Um, I believe in God, but like I'm not sure that God is like a being or anything. Like I don't see God as like a deity or like a goddess or anything. I see God as like an energy source, like the place where everything that exists comes from. So it's like an umbrella term for like all of the laws of nature and everything that exists under the laws of nature. So like it would be like almost like gravity or like the wind or like, but not really, because God created those things too, right? So like I guess you can describe it as like it God is like the original cell that we all like when you're cells and they divide, they just divide infinitely, they just divide. So God is like the original cell, and everything else just is like a product of that cell. You know what I mean? The Big Bang, I guess.
I can understand where you're saying, like what you're saying, where you're coming from. Um,
Hmm.
it's like sort of like a an ideology around us all stemming from a singular source, the same as the
Hmm.
idea of the Big Bang, like stemming from a singular source, and that singular source being the creator. Your scraping is loud, super loud.
Sorry.
It's okay. There are little things that the mic
I'm
picks up a
making a
lot.
devil's lettuce salad.
If I'm doing that as well, you call me out as well if something I'm doing is really loud. If I like you hear it, like it was like this. It was like, is that loud to you?
I'm gonna mute myself while you're talking.
Okay. Okay. So I'm gonna come to a conclusion here. We're gonna have a okay, so bam, wham, bam. Thank you, ma'am. You guys can never see what's on the page, but it's always a big jumble of different words and things that I relate to how the conversation's going. So we're at the top of the hour. Dua's about to have a nice little commercial break. Keep herself fine and nice with the conversation. And it's been a good conversation so far. So we're at the top of the hour. We have another hour to go. And we're going to go for as long as we need to, as we can, and all things that we want to talk about. But I have a lot of topics here to discuss. And so Brooklyn says, I'm so proud of you for keeping notes. Keep notes. Of course I keep notes. Like, I definitely am. The idea of these discussions is like, I don't go into this. Like, I go to each and every person's page and like, I research you as a person. This isn't a discussion about like what I want to talk about. This is a discussion about what I can find about information around what you believe. And so I try to formulate the topics around your own personal opinions. So we have a lot more things to discuss here this evening, and I am very interested to hear what Dua has to say. I'm very thankful for everything that she has said so far about the idea of spirituality, her own relation with spirituality, and how she's come into the conclusion. I thank everybody that's been in the chat this evening, that's tapped the screen, that shared the stream. We got a bunch of shares and 4,000 likes here. Anybody else? By the way, I see Stroll says, Todd, how do I sign up for this? And that's literally what I was just about to say. Anybody that wants to come into the conversation, I'm setting up streams for next week, and we have the lineup going on. So this week we're all booked up, but next week we have open slots. Jen, I'd love to have you in as well.
Jen's
You can hit me up.
awesome. Highly
I,
recommend.
I definitely watch the content, definitely enjoy what's going on. You can hit me up in the DMs and we will set something up for next week. And slots are booking up quick, but can get in here. And I definitely think that it would be an interesting conversation. So hit me in the DMs and I will definitely get you in on a slot on a time period. We go live 9 to 11 p.m. Eastern time. And yeah, no, I'm really interested to hear what a lot of people have to say about a lot of different things. So far, we've discussed things with people who are not always in agreement. And in the future, throughout the next week, we have a lot more discussions. And tonight, with you, Dua, you said you were a little bit nervous when we started, but this is the one interview that I was the least nervous about and the most excited because I thought that you and I could come in and just relax. And I think that we are relaxed and we're chilling out. I hope you aren't feeling pressured because like I feel good just
I
being able to relax and talk to you about this sort of stuff.
Yeah, I'm happy that there's only 13 people in here and that there are a few friends in here, so that's fine. Like, as long as there's more friends than strangers, I'm good. I
I
know most
understand
of
that
the
whole sort of
people in the
situation,
comments.
right? You don't want to be bamboozled with individuals who have opposing ideologies.
I've already
Um,
blocked 2 people, so
that's okay. You don't need to adhere to any sort of ideology that you disagree with. That's on you. That doesn't change them.
well,
They
it's
don't have
not
to
even
be
that their
blocked from here.
ideologies, it's that they're calling me names and stuff in the comments, so I was just like block.
Yeah,
They were like
right. It's like,
attacking me
yeah.
personally, like as a person, so I was just like block.
Yeah, that's exactly it, right? If you're going to be, what I always say, and like the reason as to why I don't block people here in this channel or on this chat in any way is
Yeah.
I say you can expose yourself any way that you want. So if you want to act like that type of person, you have the
Yeah.
full capability to block that person and stop them and stop seeing that ideology, stop seeing what they're putting forward. But everybody else here in the chat that does either agree with you or disagree with you, but still respects you as a human being, should be able to see what that person's saying because they're exposing how they act and how they interact with people. And I'm not going to block that or censor it because I don't want that person to go on to another chat or another person's live and people not know who they are. Expose yourself for whoever you are. Do whatever you want and say whatever you want because everybody can see what you're doing, what you're saying. I'm not worried about it.
I
You can
respect
definitely get
that.
rid of them. And I
Is
respect you getting rid of
Smoozy
them.
in
That's
here
fine.
right now? Is Smoozy in here?
I
No,
think
she
so.
doesn't look like she is. She wasn't
She's
in the
gone
last.
now. This is the issue,
She was so
okay? So we're gonna
excited
move
for
on
this. Why'd
forward.
she leave?
Well,
Something must have
I'll
came
tell
up.
you why. We're gonna move on forward, but I will tell you why because tonight was supposed to be me and Becca, and Becca backed out last minute and got Christy to interview her for the same time and the same situation where I thought that was very disrespectful and very weird.
I
I
just
do
think
like
that
Christy quite a bit.
I think
It's just
people
very
take this
weird to
app
do that,
really seriously.
right? I think it's oh yeah that's why I was like I don't actually care. I just think it's kind of a strange thing. Like on social media, like I don't know, it's a very strange thing to take the guest that was supposed to appear. You can come on any sort of time. You were so great, like graciously accepting of me asking you last minute, would you like to come on tonight? And you said yes, and like I was very thankful of that because if you weren't
Yeah.
able to come on tonight, I would have been screwed because Becca said yes, I want to do this, and then last minute backed
Screwed
out.
how?
Only
Are
screwed
you
in the
losing
sense of like
money?
I didn't. No, no, no. Just screwed in like the sense of like I'd like to set up each day, and so I would be like, oh, I didn't have it set up. I thought that I had things set up, and I just didn't. Screwed in that
But
sense,
like
like
you had
not like
nothing to
screwed.
loof if you just didn't go live. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah,
you
I'm not.
just
I'm
didn't
not
go live,
losing
you're not
anything.
losing
I'm
anything.
not. I didn't lose anything. Just screwed like oh, screwed in like the ideology sense. Like I didn't lose anything. No, definitely not. No, I
Yeah,
don't lose
just
anything. I lose. I lose. I don't learn like that night. I don't learn anything from anyone. So I lose like informational knowledge.
true.
And that's a big thing as well. I think it really is because the more that you discuss things, the more that I get to learn from people. And like, if I don't have these discussions and I don't learn anything,
Yeah.
go to bed. I'd love to. This is the one thing I love to wake up every day knowing things that I didn't know the day before. That makes me
Yeah.
feel good.
You're a philosopher, I could tell. I could always tell.
Let me ask you that then. What is your idea on philosophy?
That's just so broad. Like, I don't know, philosophies.
I want you to describe the idea of philosophy to the crowd, and then what your idea and your relation around it is.
Philosophy is the fabric of the human condition, I feel. Like, philosophy is everything. Like, everything that we think and feel and say, and I don't know. There's a philosophy for everything. You know what I mean? We wouldn't be able to like. I feel like we wouldn't be able to speak at all. Like everything, I don't even know. I don't even know what I'm saying. It's just, you know what I mean? Like everything you think and
Like,
feel is back based on some philosophy, even if you made it up or it's like a philosophy that like I don't know. It's unconscious, I guess.
so I definitely do understand where you're coming from and what you're saying, but like the idea of philosophical points of views and how we look at that as a society. Um, what are some of the main philosophical point of views that you adhere to or that you know of, and how does that relate to the way that you view the world?
Um, I don't know. I don't think about that kind of stuff. I feel like
Well,
I'm
you do.
still.
I'm not trying to get I'm not trying to like catch you off guard here. You definitely do because you
No,
sent me
I
a
know.
whole
I
bunch
just
of
like
videos.
I don't know.
Let me say this. Like, let me say this to try to get you onto the right mindset, right? You sent me a whole bunch of videos about the philosophical ideologies around Socrates and what he put
And
forward into the
Socrates and
perspective
Plato, yeah.
and how it relates to the context of what I'm trying to do with this stream and tried to help me
Yeah.
with pushing forward and just giving me points of views. So you clearly do know a lot about philosophy. Don't sell yourself short.
I know stuff, but I wouldn't say that I identify with any one thing specifically. Like I am open to anything that helps. Like I'm aware that like you can't paint everybody with one brush. Like one philosophy is never going to work for 100% of the people. Never. Like that's irrational to think that, in my opinion. That there's
So the
never going
question,
to be a one size fits all. So I understand that certain philosophies work really well for certain people and that they don't work at all for other people, and that doesn't make one philosophy more right or wrong. I just think certain things work for certain people and not everything is for everybody, I guess.
that's a
And that is a
very,
philosophy.
I was going to say, it's a very, no, it's not even like a philosophy itself. It is, but it's a very philosophical point of view. It's like you're taking a step back, you're looking at the entire picture, uh, all the angles are being covered. You're analyzing the situation and giving an in-depth point of view around how it could be explained from every point of view, not just one. And so that's kind of the idea of philosophy. I love the fact that we do talk about these sort of things, and it is hard to formulate it into one one thing. It is what it is. I want to ask you a question about. I don't want to move so far past philosophy. I want to try to keep it with that, but I have so many questions, and there's something that I want to ask you that goes back to the idea of like witch talk and that sort of thing. Something that I don't know anything about that I'd love to hear more about that I'll learn in the future and that you'll be the first one to really give me a description of. If you do know, what are tarot cards and what are tarot cards all about?
I feel like I'm not the person to ask about this. As far
That's
as I'm
okay.
aware,
That's okay.
tarot cards are just like another divination tool that some people use, and like some people really understand them. It's like it's like a different language. It's a symbolic language, and you'd think that I would be able to, and I probably would be able to if I like put the time and the effort into actually like learning. And yeah, see, Broken Spiritually knows more about tarot than me. You should interview her about the tarot stuff. But
Oh, Brooklyn's gonna come on.
yeah,
Don't worry. Brooklyn's definitely gonna come on for this type of discussion. Um, she will be here. I thought that you were into tarot and stuff like that. That's okay. If you're not into that sort
I
of stuff,
like tarot. I like, and I believe that tarot can send a message, but it's more about the person that's doing it, because like you have to be able to
Okay,
interpret
okay.
the
So let me.
symbols
So that's
like
the
on a
thing. Like you
whim.
are
You know
more
what I
into the
mean?
idea of spirituality and understanding and being acceptant of, or being
Yeah.
accepting of. But you yourself, this is the best way I can ask this question. You did kind of describe this a little bit earlier, but do you yourself have any sixth sense that you can exhibit, such as median, being a medium, seeing the future, predicting events, seeing paranormal activity, anything like that? A sixth sense.
So I don't know. Are you familiar with like the senses? Like
Well, no, not enough to
clairaudience.
describe it. Just
So
describe it to
clair.
everybody that's listening,
Okay.
because people just pretend they don't know, like me.
So if I get it wrong, somebody correct me. But clairaudience is when you can hear voices, and that's not to be mistaken with being schizophrenic. Like some people, when they get those messages, like it's an audible sound, or some people just get ringing in their ears. Some people. Oh, I've also heard too that people that are clairaudient, they can interpret music too, not like, so it would be more like a synchronicity in that way. Like there are some people can pick up, but when they can associate their thoughts and like a song that is sometimes either literally playing at that specific time, and they take that as like a synchronicity, and their sense is to be able to decipher whether that is a clear message or not, right? Because like every time you hear a certain song, it's not always a message, but like being clairaudient is having that ability to decipher that does mean something and that doesn't mean something. So yeah, anyway, that was a little bit off topic, but like then after clairaudient you have claircognizant, which is the one that I mostly identify with, which is, for me anyway, it's like the sense that you just know stuff, like, and you don't know how you know, and you don't have any evidence to back it up, and you probably never will, but like you kind of have that knowing. So that's the one that I identify the most with, that sometimes like I just have like a certain feeling, or like a certain thought will just be in my head and it won't leave, and it'll just like always repeat like on a loop. Like it's like almost borderline OCD, like intrusive thoughts sometimes. Um but like part of me flexing that muscle is being able to decipher, like, is this, because like you can go really deep into spiritual psychosis too, like if you don't like get control of it. So like, and which I've been prone to, like I've been through spiritual psychosis many times. But like I can't afford to go through spiritual psychosis because I have a child now. Um, and my grandmother lost everything to a spiritual psychosis. So I feel like part of me almost feels like, because she died before I was born. So like part of me always felt like, am I like her reincarnation? Because there are just certain things about her that I know that I shouldn't know about. And I had it confirmed by psychic. Um, and she's the grandmother that I say that I feel that they did MK Ultra on her. And that's like part of why I feel like I am the way I am, because it's almost like it was passed down. Like that trauma was passed down. Because my mom was already alive during my grandmother's trauma. And I don't know. I know that that's an out there thought, but like maybe certain people in the comments can understand what I'm saying. But I always sometimes felt like I was like her in a past life, because I always have this fear of like I don't trust authority at all. I don't trust doctors. I don't even trust myself right now talking about this online. Like like somebody could fucking barge into my house and like just like put me in a mental institution. Like I have that fear, like I have that paranoia all the time that like if I say certain things or if I say too much, um I'm going to a fucking mental institution and they're going to take away my child and all this like so
Hmm.
um sorry, I went off topic there. What was
No,
the
no, no,
bring me back to
no,
where we
no.
were?
It's good. It was definitely you definitely spoke in a very good manner. We were discussing the idea of
Oh, the
looking back on,
clairs.
yeah, like looking
I was
back
talking
and like
about
the
the
question.
clairs. So yeah, then you had the
Yeah,
clair
well, like the
audience.
Claire. We were talking about like Claire, not just the Claires, like not just the clairvoyant, but like also like the way that like things would come forward in this ideology, how you could experience different forms of spirituality, differences, clairvoyance, clair,
Certain, you were asking about certain what sixth sense that I have. So I guess the answer
and
to
yeah,
that would be the clair, mostly claircognizant. But like I also have like minor, all the rest of them too, but it's just not as prominent. Like it's not as much. So like I do have the clair audience where I sometimes like the music stuff. Like I'll be able to decipher like does that mean something? Does that not mean something? And then claircognizant, and then you have um, clairvoyant, and that's the big one that is like in the media a lot, and that's like that's so Raven kind of thing where like you actually see visions and like you see pictures. So I get that one a lot too. I have, and it's mostly symbols. Like I will just things just flash in my head all the time, like just random pictures or like um and it's I almost want to say it's almost like digital art kind of because it's like things that don't make sense in reality, but it serves a purpose in like in the symbolic way. Like
hmm.
for example, once when I was in university, I don't fully remember what we were talking about, but my teacher was giving a lecture about something and it was a history class. And I got all of a sudden I had this like flashing image in my head of like the cogs on a watch, how like the cogs like they one turns this way and one turns that way and they all fit, the pieces always fit together, and then all of a sudden like the pieces were fitting together and then it just stopped. And that was like the image that was flashing in my head during my teacher's lecture, and that stuck with me. I think we were talking about something to do with society. This was in I want to say 2016 that this occurred. So we were talking about probably I want to say probably Donald Trump. Like most likely that's probably the discussion because it was like around that time, right, of like the inauguration and stuff like that. So
Yeah.
we were talking something to do about society and the progression of society, and that was the image that I was getting in my head, that like yep, things were going great and
Okay.
then all of a sudden they're just not going to be going great anymore. Like that was the image that I was getting in my head.
With this motivation forward, and then a stop in progression. A
Yeah.
question that I want to ask you that does relate to what we're discussing here is the idea of schizophrenia and other mental illnesses. How do you feel that relates to how we view spirituality and understanding these separate viewpoints in
mm,
society?
I don't know, can you rephrase the question? I don't know if I fully understand.
So, a lot of individuals who exhibit traits that are a part of schizophrenia specifically are
Mm-hmm.
also associated with those who are spiritually awakened. And the idea of hearing voices or hearing or thinking of or being under a full understanding or like a full description, like focused fully on something that doesn't seem to be based in reality. If you listen to what's being discussed by a lot of individuals
Mhm.
who have schizophrenia, it often is based in reality. It's just not the way that the average individual would like look at this subject, in my opinion. I've never heard anybody. I've known a few individuals that have ended up having schizophrenia and that have exhibited these things, the attributes that come with it. And it's not that they say things that are outside the boundaries of reality. It's that they don't make sense in context of the situation that you are currently in.
I think it's I feel, and I might be wrong about this because like I kind of feel like that's a spectrum, but I feel like it's more about, can you control it, or like is it affecting your daily life? Um can you find purpose in it? Cuz like a lot of times, like people who are like really like schizophrenic to the point where like they can't function, like they can't even like they can't even conceptualize that there are people in front of them sometimes, like, you know what I mean, like it's like, I don't
And I
know.
understand that
I feel
I
like I don't
centered out
really
one
know that much
specific,
about it, to be
yeah,
honest.
I centered out one specific mental situation. But essentially, what I'm asking you is, do you believe that the ideology around spirituality on in its greatest form has to do with mental instability in any way?
I think it can. And I also think that part of that is societal conditioning, because I feel like there's a theme going on right now. And I feel like it's that it's unity. And I think that when you say unity, that sounds like a good idea, right? Like people think that yes, we should all be one. We should all love each other. But when you are all one, then it's like, then there's no differences anymore. And I feel like I feel like over the last maybe 2 or 3 thousand years, we've been on this progression of trying to unify again as one. And let me try to get my point here. It's almost like they don't want anybody to have different beliefs or different. I understand some people. It's like the fine line between are your thoughts and your ideologies causing problems for other people, but I just feel like there's a lot of lately, like everybody just wants to be, it's almost like pathological unity, I guess. Like I know I'm rambling and I'm not fully making sense, and it's like I'm not even hitting a point here, but it's like maybe being unified isn't necessarily a good thing, because I just feel like we're not all the same. And there are people that have that spiritual psychosis, like being susceptible to spiritual psychosis, and maybe they do have delusional thoughts, but like who's to say it's delusional, right? Like who is deciding that? And then at what point does it become like the G word? How do I say that without it being like a
Spell it out.
bannable word? GENOSIDE. Like at what point does it become that, right? Because you can't force everybody to think the same way, or like you can't and it's not even a choice. Like it's not just to say like you have the choice to believe that. It's that some people's brains are different, right? It's like trying to tell a fish that you should be a bird. Why would you want to be a fish? The fish, like the oceans are toxic. Why would you want to be a fish? You have to be a bird. Everybody else is trying to be a bird. Why wouldn't you be trying to be a bird? You know what I mean? It's like,
Like,
because
well, the air's polluted.
I'm
Like, well,
not a bird. But it's like the fact that like
yeah,
you can't force yourself to be something. You can't force yourself to go along with a life that you don't want. And I just think that
no,
it's unreasonable. Um, it's unreasonable to expect that everybody is going to think the same, or like everybody is the same, because some people do have different brains. And I know that's a little bit off topic, so I'll try to bring it back to like what we were talking about. But like some people do have that susceptibility to being like over the top, I guess, with their spirituality. But I don't think that
hmm
it's an issue until it's like until you're having delusions that kill other people. You know what I mean? Like that guy on the Greyhound bus. You know what I mean? Remember that guy? The guy that um, I'm trying to say this without getting banned, but like the guy on the Greyhound bus. Like
yeah, I know what you're saying. Yeah,
that was a level of schizophrenia that is like fucking terrifying. And he said that it was God told him to do it. Like that's fucking terrifying. Like just the
the fact that
idea
he's
that,
out now in society is also
yeah,
terrifying, and the fact that we
that's what
didn't
I
even, as
mean.
a society, look at what he did as something that should be like we as a society should care about or worry about is terrifying. And I definitely understand where you're coming from. So the idea of like mental health and mental instability definitely does play a large impact on the way that we look at things, but it's not always the defining factor around why people believe what they believe and why they're exhibiting thoughts that they are exhibiting, which
Yeah.
makes a lot of sense to me.
And I think that a lot of people like, and I've even heard this recently, that apparently like if you go get like a psych eval, they'll ask you about your spiritual beliefs now, because
Christianity,
they've
radicalism,
deemed
but
certain certain beliefs to be extreme beliefs, and you could be deemed spiritually, like you could be they could diagnose you with spiritual psychosis now, like if you, and I, a part of me thinks that's
I'll look
dangerous.
into that. That sounds pretty insane. That sounds pretty insane to be able to be
Yeah.
diagnosing individuals with spiritual psychosis.
Well, they more likely be probably diagnosed schizophrenic at that point, but like that's apparently one of the indicators now. And that I can't confirm that. It was just something that I read from somebody else on TikTok, but like, you know what I mean? Like
Of
that's
course.
fucking scary. Um but like obviously like it's a fine line. Like you do have to have some parameters around society so that accidents like that don't happen, but at the same time you can't say like, well, that person's schizophrenic, we have to like lock them up, or like unalive them because they're schizophrenic and they might hurt somebody someday. You know what I mean? So it's like a
So with that
fine
being
line.
said, I have to ask you this question just to like push it forward a little bit. What are your thoughts on the idea of maids? Because you said you don't want to unalive somebody who's schizophrenic. So in Canada, on the 31st of
Mm-hmm.
January, we are introducing the
Yeah.
idea that if you are mentally unwell, you can subscribe to the idea of MAIDs, which is medically assisted uh, death by suicide. And it is something that is a large point of contention, especially here in Canada, where it's like if you are depressed, if you
Yeah.
have negative thoughts, then you are able to end yourself
And I
through the
think that's
governmental
crazy,
system.
because it used to be that that if you wanted to have medical assisted suicide or euthanasia, that you had to go through a psych eval, and they had to determine whether you were of sound mind to make a rational choice. But now it seems like the opposite. They're like, if you're irrational, we want you dead. You know what I mean? That's kind of how it sounds. Like, that's kind of, I feel like the narrative that's being pushed. Like, if you are irrational, we don't want you here. If you're so depressed you can't work, well, fuck off then. Fuck off and die. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's, sorry, I forgot to censor myself. I have to turn off my furnace. 1 sec.
You're good. That's exactly what I feel is going on. It's a very hard situation to discuss.
Sorry, what?
Sorry, I said that's a very serious situation, and I think it's a very hard situation to discuss, but it is something that needs to be discussed and talked about.
Yeah, I think it's slippery. I think that they want mentally ill people to die because they're a burden on the system. Sorry, I keep forgetting I have to censor myself. I think that they want mentally ill people unalive because they're a burden to the system. That's what I think. And disabled people. I think that they feel that they're a burden to the system, so they don't want them here anymore. And that's how I honestly feel about it. I can't say I'm for or against it.
I'm going to ask you this question. I'm going to ask you this question. Why do you feel that way? But before you do answer, I'm going to preface it with the fact that there are many countries within the world that do feel the exact way that you are describing right now. Hence why you don't see many mentally disabled individuals coming out of certain countries. And so, how do you feel about the idea of curating curating children in pregnancies to ensure that your population does not have any abnormalities?
I think, isn't that the G word? GENOSIDE? Isn't that what that is? And like, aren't we like supposed to be so against that because of like, 1940s Germany? Like, I don't get it. I'm so confused. Like, everything is so hypocritical. And I'm not saying that, like, this is controversial, but like, I think there's a time and a place for everything. But I don't think this is the time and place for it. I think if we're going to use the G word, it should be used on child abusers, not people that are spiritual. Not people that have different thought, like not anti-jabbers, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it should be used on them. I think it should be used on child abusers.
I don't think it should be used on anybody. I don't think
it should be used on child abusers?
I don't
like
think
the worst
that
kind.
The idea is this. The idea of what we're talking about, right? Let's not use the word.
Yeah.
But it doesn't come with, like, if you were going to say, like, in a perfect world where it was, like, guaranteed every single individual that was the word was this person, okay. But the way these things go down in society, it's like,
I know, but
who knows? Who knows who would be thrown into that camp?
I know, but at this point,
especially
it's
think
like
about just one thing, just one for you and I, the left and the right, the way that individuals attack each other. And then imagine if there was just like, who was in charge, who's going to be thrown into that. It's like, yes, I do agree, but I disagree with the way that we look at society and the way that we use these words.
And that's why if we're going to unify, I think that should be what we unify under. But it's not that way.
So let me ask you this then, Dua. Let me ask you this kind of question then. If you feel that way, that we should unify under the ideology that So
The way
people
that
who
we go to the trial to prove if somebody killed, like, unalived somebody or not, I feel like the same effort should be put towards trying to prove if somebody abused a child. But, like, for some reason it's not. For some
it should
reason,
be even it should be even more. It should be even more. So I'm asking
exactly.
you this question, right? So it's like when people are out there, okay, what are your thoughts on drag what are your thoughts on drag queens, drag
Oh god, I hate
shows,
this one.
and then child drag queen shows
I hate this
together?
conversation. I really do. It's one of my least favorites.
We don't have to do it for very long.
I
It'll
just,
just kind of
to
solidify
me,
what we're
like, my
talking about.
thoughts are very rational, and I feel like other people, like, it doesn't have to be left or right. You know what I mean? Like, I was in that discussion with you guys once where there was like a big thing. I was there. Um, so I support drag. I think drag is fine. Um, I think drag story time is fine given that they are dressed professionally and that the conversation is kept to a PG, like, age appropriate. And I genuinely don't think that the argument comes down to drag whatsoever. I think the real things people should be arguing about is what are they allowed to talk about? What are they allowed to wear? And then somebody brought up the fact that, like, they want there to be measures put in place to verify these people, and I think that's very rational. I think, and then, like, I other people were coming back and being like, well, we should do that for everybody then. Yeah, we should absolutely be putting more effort into protecting children as a society. And I feel like, to me, that's like the core argument for every single argument. Why'd you turn me off?
Because you're frozen, I'm going to try to fix you.
Oh,
Hmm. Turn yourself back on. Well, you're good.
am I good? Okay. So that
No,
is
you're
like the
frozen for me. But
like
if you're not frozen for anybody else, it's okay.
every single argument that we have as a society, everybody is just on the surface of those issues every time I watch these arguments and these debates. It's like everybody is just so focused on the surface level bullshit when the core issues are children. Protect children at all cost. Literally stop the trauma. Like, this is the issue with the human condition, is that it's trauma. Everything is trauma. We're born and it's trauma. Like, every little thing causes trauma. Even I heard recently that there's a new study put out that children under the 1 years old are more susceptible to um, sudden infant death syndrome if they don't have a Sookie, like a pacifier. And that's because the infant brain, like the brand new human brain that is barely developed at all, is wired for comfort, right? It needs comfort. So if your child is alone in their crib at night and it doesn't have a Sookie, that's like the main source of comfort for, like, your brain. It's not just your child chose that. It's literally like programmed into the brain to suckle on something as a baby. Like, it's
Can
literally
I
an
ask you something
instinct.
as a woman?
Yeah,
And you've had children.
I have one.
Well, you have a child then.
Yeah,
Um, I've heard this as more of a woman's perspective, but also men could be the same situation. When a child's born, I've heard things like the idea of them like skin to skin contact. When they're
yeah,
first born, it's like they need to feel you, your warmth, your heartbeat. They need to be against you. I'm gonna cry. Like I'm already thinking like
yeah,
it's like when I think about this sort of thing, it's like that only makes sense. It's like, listen,
yeah,
this kid, That's a baby. That is like a
Yeah,
thing that is just born. And it's like
yeah,
realizing that you're here, you're alive, you're good, you're okay.
yeah,
And that seems like a lot. That seems like a lot. And if you don't
yeah,
have that, it seems like it could really fuck with
yeah.
like the person to grow.
People, it's like these are the
What are your
types of things
thoughts?
that people don't think about enough. They don't think about anything this deep to think about how is this going to affect a child, because, well, to be honest, it's not their fault, because like a lot of people don't know about the human brain, and I genuinely think it should be taught more, but I think that they don't want us to know about our brain, to be honest. I think that they want us to just be depressed and want to die, want to be unalive. um but if we knew more about like the human brain and human and child psychology, and I only took two intro courses for psychology in university, but like I would say that probably changed my whole perspective on like the world, just those two intro courses, because you learn so much about your brain. um I don't know why that guy's laughing, but anyway. um so yeah, it's like these things are programmed into our brain, and it's just a thing about being a human being that like we have to stop trying to be robots. We have to like lean into our humanity and realize that these things, like everything, causes trauma, because that is the human condition. Like the human condition is trauma. This world is traumatic. I don't think anybody can disagree on that. Like, so we have to take into account more how things affect kids, and how even our words affect kids. Like, my mom, I grew up all the time and my mom telling me like, you can't do that. Like, don't do that. Don't, you can't do that. Don't do this. Don't do that. And now I don't do anything but sit on my couch, because like every time, like I can't, I've conditioned myself to believe that I can't do anything. Like I just can't. And now I have like executive
Hmm.
dysfunction, where like one part of my brain is saying do that, like just do it, but then the other part of my brain like can't get up off the couch, and I just scroll through TikTok a little bit more. Like,
And it
so
goes both ways,
yeah,
though. That has to do with the ideology around how parents influence children and how we don't realize it unless we take a step back and like analyze what's going on. So one of my friends, and even with the only within your friend system or your friend group growing up, maybe this is how you can learn, and
yeah,
I have learned certain things. So my one friend, in relation to what you're discussing here, he's not able to sit down on the couch. He's not able to like sit down just to relax with me, especially when we started having cell phones and you'd sit down and you'd scroll through your cell phone. So buddy
yeah,
cannot do that. Like he
yeah,
needs like from a young age. Not many people have a wood stove, but he always had a wood stove. So like at the very least, you need to make sure that the stove is filled and it's like continuously running. And it's like little things like that. He cannot just relax. He needs to be doing something at all times. There's no
yeah,
chilling out. Even if you're chilling, if you're relaxing, maybe he'll play a game of ping pong. But after that game,
yeah,
you got to get back to work, get back to making sure everything's okay. And then you can maybe sit down for a minute or two. But you're
yeah,
not ever relaxing for like an hour, even to watch a movie. Like he can't sit there for a full movie. And that
yeah.
has to do with the way that we've grown up and the way that
ADHD.
we've been influenced. No, I
Does
have
he have
mad ADHD as
ADHD?
well. I don't think so. I don't
Oh,
believe he was ever diagnosed. But
oh, okay.
even just in relation, I have mad ADHD, and I don't think he's not the same. He can definitely focus on what he's on the tasks that he's trying to accomplish. He is just he grew up with the ideology in his head that you cannot be real. Like if you're relaxing, then you're not getting anything accomplished. There always is
Yeah,
something that needs to be done, and there are things that need to be done around the house. So if you own
I
your own
wish I could be
property
that
and there's
way.
things that need to be done, there are things that always need to be done. So if you're relaxing, why are you relaxing? Because there are still things that need to be done. Tomorrow I'm going
Yeah,
to have to do more things. And the day after that, like I'm going to have to do things for the next year if I look at all the
yeah,
projects that I need to do. So it's like there really is no time to relax if you're always working on moving forward. And it is a very good mindset to have, but it is so hectic. Like there's no time. There's no like you never feel accomplished. He's always like even if he does things that are amazing, but he doesn't feel accomplished. because he still has to work on the next project. He has to move forward. And that's where I take a step back and I'm like, man, you accomplished this. Like, you did a good job.
That sounds
You
like a
should be
trauma
proud of yourself.
response. Queenie says,
That's what I
right? Sounds like
I
he
agree.
grew up in a household where he had to walk on eggshells. So that's what
Not
I
even
mean.
just on eggshells.
Everybody,
It's not even just on eggshells. It's just that like he had to be doing things at all times because that is what is expected. It's not that you're going to be in trouble if you don't. It's that you're not going to be part of the group. You're not like, oh, what are you doing? You're not doing anything. It's like we're Canadian. We're like rural Canadian. I grew up like I'm out here in the country, right? So it's like, Freddie, if we got wood to cut and you're not cutting wood, what are you gonna sit inside and watch TV all day? When we were younger, we didn't have cell phones. You're gonna sit there and watch cartoons while we're all out here cutting wood so that you can be warm for the afternoons? Like, buddy, what the fuck, man? And you will feel that. You will understand that. Like you have responsibilities growing up. You do. We did.
yeah.
Not everybody does now today. But like it turns people into different people.
But that's the
Anyways,
thing is
I'm,
like
I'm finished ranting.
I feel like the whole point of the human condition is to like go through the trauma and see what you can make out of it. Like I feel like that's the point. Cuz like I feel like there's not a person alive that doesn't have some trauma at some point. Even if it's like the most mundane thing, right? Like everybody has some form of trauma somewhere. And
Somebody
generational
said in the
trauma is a
comments
thing,
he had
right?
one or more. Can I just say this though?
Yeah.
Someone in the comments, Queenie, you said he had one or more narcissistic parents that had drill instructor mentality of not allowing rest. And so I understand that perspective, especially in retrospect, to see how potentially things were when the friends weren't around, or even just like one friend wasn't around, like when nobody from the outside was around. I could see his parents being super like they were German, both of them. Their parents came straight from Germany. They were like first generation immigrants. Um, Work structure was very firm in that ideology. But the idea of like the trauma structure, it really puts into relation to like how is our society structured today? Because the trauma structure, I don't, even if they did, I don't know. It's kind of, I don't really want to talk about that too much, like the idea of discipline and how we were disciplined growing up. I never saw him bruised or hurt. And like, I saw him naked all the time. Like, we're good friends. Like, like, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe this sounds,
narcissistic
but like,
trauma is a thing though, for sure.
no, no, no. I understand like the idea of mental trauma, but I'm talking about like physical
Yeah.
trauma. I never saw him physically abused, so like thankful for that. Um, and I definitely did see like his whole body, like, and I never saw him ever once with bruises on his body anywhere or anything like that. Um, and but it does put into perspective the idea around how different cultures and different cultural upbringings have different it's not okay, what's the idea, what's the word that I'm looking for, the different um what they expect you to bring, um and he was definitely expected to be strong and to provide for his family, and he was a strong human being. He still is, and I do respect him. And you know what, thank you for that, Queenie. Maybe I didn't actually say anything in the end, but you helped me realize and rationalize a lot of things. Perhaps it was a little bit of the idea what could be considered abuse, but also what could be considered structure. So how do we move forward and relate the two in order to like impact our children and the future generation in a proper way without making them feel negative in the way that we felt?
I don't have any answers for that.
Can you see me? I know that I'm not on the screen right now, but can you see me normally?
Yeah. Can you see me?
No, not at all. You're paused. You've been paused for me for a while, but everybody in the chat says that they can see you. And so I just I see that.
What about now?
Oh, now you're back. Nope, you're
Okay.
still in the same
Huh?
picture. Everybody says they can see you though, and so that's fine. If everybody else can see you, I can hear you, and I can you're crystal clear. And we're gonna keep going for another 10 minutes or
Oh,
longer if you want to go for a little bit longer. I have so many more
yeah, okay.
questions that we haven't gone to,
Yeah.
and I just want to chill out and talk for a little bit. No pressure. We're just chilling out, relaxing. And if you haven't seen, I do upload all of these full format discussions onto YouTube at the Open Debate, but also I have been uploading clips onto the channel in relation to questions and using these discussions to pose questions rather than posing questions in a different way, like where I just relate them to like articles, because we're here, we're talking just like real people. So I'm gonna probably post these anywhere else, but like um, I will always preface it with I don't know. I'm never trying to make you look bad, or there's no gotcha moments in these kind of conversations. I never want to have a gotcha moment. I'm here for just
Yeah, I
like
don't
real
think I've said
conversation.
anything too inflammatory yet.
And thank you for that. Like I always say this, anybody who's here, I believe, is convicted in their beliefs. And if you want to screen record and repost any of this content, do it because we want this. I'm not
You
here
keep saying
to
that.
hide. I'm here to have people listen to these conversations. So please share them with other people.
You keep saying that about people, like you want to talk to people that are like, what did you say, convicted in their beliefs or something like that. And
Hmm.
I can't say that I'm convicted in my beliefs, really. I'm pretty easily swayed and easily like gullible in a sense. Like
Certain things that
I can see things from many perspectives. Like I can see where people are coming from. It doesn't necessarily mean like that's how I feel, but yeah, yeah, Libra vibes for sure. Like it's a constant balance. And that's why like I don't really consider myself right or left. Like people I consider myself a centrist and I know people don't like that. I know that's, like
all right. I
controversial, I
know they get
guess.
angry. I think I asked you this
Yeah.
question already, but it gets into like a whole different like set of questions that I have here in chat. I
Yeah.
wish that I could just yeah. Anyways, um, so what have you noticed from the time that you started TikTok to the time that you're on TikTok now? You did say this before, but just if you can reiterate again, and then it will go on to a set of different
What do you
questions.
mean?
Have you noticed any differences between the type of content that you've consumed on TikTok from when you started, when you first joined, to now, today, when you're now here on TikTok?
Mm, yeah, I guess, but I think that's just down to me discovering new people.
What is the difference that you've noticed, though, is what I'm asking.
I guess like I don't know, I get more variety of content. I get like a lot of really useless stuff though too that I don't want to see at all. Like I feel like I have to swipe about 10 times before I find a video I actually want to watch.
Okay.
I don't know if that's anything to do with me or if that's just the TikTok algorithm, but
It might be the algorithm.
yeah, probably.
A question that I also have in relation to the idea of TikTok itself and your relation to it. Um, have you, yeah, the content that you consume, has it changed whatsoever? And what type of content do you find yourself consuming these days?
These days, I for the last like 2 months, I've been consistently consuming content about the that quadruple murder, or sorry, the quadruple unaliving that happened in Idaho. I don't know why it mattered. I already said the word, and then I correct myself. Like
It's
I've already
yeah,
said
it
it.
is what it is. Yeah.
I know, but yeah, that's what I've been consuming a lot of, because I just want to be updated and I want to know every little thing about it.
See what's going on. Yeah. Keep it real. And that's the whole thing. So there are so many things on TikTok that people get consumed in. Is this where you normally find the first information, the news, the
Yeah.
first information around the news?
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
It's funny,
Yeah.
like my parents watch the news religiously, right? Like every morning and then every night, like they gotta watch the news. And my mom watches the morning show where they are like, they'll put like videos up, like viral videos that have been like making the rounds online. And it's funny because she'll call me and tell me about this hilarious video she saw. And I'm thinking, I go, yeah, that went viral last week, Ma. Like, I saw that the day it went viral, but like the news is picking it up a week later and like showing it to all the boomers. I just think it's funny. Like,
They're all loving it too. Okay, so we're gonna have to end the stream here. It's been a very good conversation, but I do have at least one more question that I do need to pose to you before we end the stream. The question that I have for you here, Dua Lipa, Lipa, that's what you did with your
Dua
fucking
Lipa.
name, Dua Lipa. Yeah, Dua Lipa and Duallibra.
Yeah,
Um, two Dua Libras.
that's the
Um,
that's the double entendre.
I know you got me with it right there at the very end. Couldn't contain myself. Had to express it. But the question that I do have for you is, where do you see yourself this time next year? Do you think that you will still be creating content? If
I
not,
don't know.
where do you see yourself in life, and what do you think will be happening?
Oh God, I don't really try to think about the future. The future is too scary. I thought I would be dead at like before I turned 18. So like this sounds bad, but like that goes through my mind like constantly, like every day. It's like a constant, and I probably should get help for it. But like it's like a constant everyday thing, thinking like I could probably die like soon. And like you wouldn't I wouldn't know, like you know what I mean? Like I don't know.
It's a real ideology. It's a real thought, and I appreciate you expressing it. Please tell me how you feel about that. Like that is real. That's how a lot of people do feel.
I don't know. Like like I said, I've struggled with those unaliving thoughts since I was like 5 years old. So it's just like a part of me, like that I don't really plan for the future that much. Like I don't know. I haven't even picked a career yet. You know what I mean? Because I just like never thought that I would get this far. And part of me thinks that I probably won't get very much further, but like I don't know. I don't mean to be negative about it, but it's just like the way that, like, I don't know, the way I go through life, I guess.
Listen, I 100% understand those emotions and those feelings. One thing that I will always reiterate, my stuttering voice cannot be used very well. But one thing that I will always reiterate to anybody who is feeling this way, because I definitely have these feelings as well. I suffer from depression, anxiety, ADHD, ODD, a bunch of different things. Lots of diagnosed, uh, quote unquote, mental disorders. I'm not, you know, I'm a crazy human being. So one thing that I will always say to anybody is I would rather listen to you speak to me tonight than not be able to listen to you speak tomorrow. And so if you're ever feeling any sort of way, hit me up, message me, call me in any way. This goes to anybody that's out there in the chat as well. Um, I would rather listen to you speak than not hear you speak tomorrow. I want you to be around, and I think that that is a humanistic reality, And it's something that we struggle with, especially when you're not feeling well, where it's like, oh, it doesn't really matter. But I think it does matter. It does matter a lot to people that you actually don't realize that it matters to.
Yeah.
People that you may not be thinking about that, like, oh, no, like, oh, nobody cares. Nobody's thinking about me. Yeah, there are people that are thinking about you that you aren't thinking about right now. Because I don't know, life is fucking crazy like that. There's so many nuanced situations, but anybody out there and you in general and anybody as well, just like talk, it's like, I'd rather have this conversation for hours than not be able to have it tomorrow.
Yeah. And that's why I think the big reason why I'm on TikTok too is because, like, I feel like I would be dead. I know it sounds stupid, but I feel like I would be unalive if I wasn't on TikTok anymore. Like, if I just, like, go silent, like, I never post ever again, like, I'm probably, like, gone. Because this is, like, the only human contact that I have is, like, on TikTok. I don't go to work. I don't go to school. I talk to my mom and my son and my son's father, but like I don't hang out with people. You know what I mean? Like I don't have people that I feel comfortable talking about this kind of stuff with. So that's why like there's always somebody somewhere on TikTok. Especially that's where I like the lives too, because it's like you're there and like I feel like I get through my day better when I can just like put on somebody's live and I'm just doing stuff around the house and it feels like there's other people there. You know what I mean? Like it's a crutch, but oh well. It is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, but in the end, you need to realize that a lot of people do care about you here.
Yeah, and I think that I know that and that's why I still come on here and like I know there's a lot of fucking assholes on here. There really is. That's why I block them. But like that's why I do block them. Is just because like the more people that I block, the more, and it is going to be an echo chamber. But like maybe that's what I want, and I don't. I know that that word echo chamber has like people think like negatively about that, but I don't see what's wrong with that. I don't know.
It
I don't
can
want
be a
to.
negative thing depending on the atmosphere in which you're trying to harbor, but
Yeah.
um, one thing that you need to realize and remember is that anybody who is sitting there constantly trying to like negatively affect you,
Hmm.
like they definitely still care about you as a person. Like, don't leave us,
Are
bro.
you crying?
No, yes, maybe.
What's
But like
wrong?
I'm
Did
just
I
like
make you cry?
no, no, no. I'm just like a super emotional person. I
Me
cry all the
too.
time.
I'm gonna
I cry
cry.
all the time.
I was like, I told
No, no, no.
myself,
I
I was
cry
like,
all the
you
time.
better.
'Cause
I
I
told
get
myself
super
not to
emotional
cry
because I'm
during this
like,
live.
yeah, no, it's all good. I cry all the time. I just get super emotional. But it's like, yo, it's like you got to realize though, like people, like if you get upset that like people are being like negative against you, that just
Yeah.
means that like, yo, you should feel proud of yourself. I don't know. It feels weird to me that like you would feel negative about like negative comments. If somebody's gonna go to their way to comment on my stuff, even in a negative way, like I feel appreciative of that. It's like, yo, you literally care so much that you're gonna like comment about this. I'm gonna
I
engage
don't
with you
think of
then.
it that way
It's like,
because, and I know why I don't think of it that way, and it's because my whole life I've been called every name in the book by my parents for everything. Every thought that I expressed out of my mouth was like they reacted negatively to me. Everything that makes me quirky and interesting and is like actually autistic traits. Like my whole life, my parents were like, "Stop being like that." Like,
yeah.
so that's
And
why
see, that's the whole problem.
when people
Right.
say things like you're a this, you're a that, you're delusional, you're a weirdo, like I'm I'm like, yeah, I know, like, cause That's how I've conditioned. That's what I've conditioned myself to believe about myself. That I'm every bad thing that there possibly is, except a child abuser, and try really hard to be like the parent that I wish I had growing up. But
And
yeah,
that's the issue. That's a big issue that a lot of people face, where it's like, this is why I have like such a visceral reaction, because I didn't have like the best upbringing. I didn't have like the perfect fucking life, but I have. Fuck. There's like, it does. It makes me fucking emotional. Okay, let me calm down. Okay,
it's okay. You can cry
but
if
it's
you
like,
want. I'm just
no, but
trying
it's
not
like
to
one of those
cry.
things. Like you need to chill. You need to chill, right? Like you got to chill out for a second. Like be strong for a second. There are a few things, but it's like this. Um, I definitely had good a good structural base growing up. Like I didn't have people like, definitely like, I don't know. I'm a
Yeah.
black human being in a small town, but like the structure that I had around me never made me feel fucking weird about anything in my life, right? So it's like, um I've always been strong and firm in my convictions. That's why I'm here to have these conversations. I want to know what you believe and why. Why do you believe what you believe? Why do you think that what you believe is right? I know why I believe the things that I believe and what I believe is right. So somebody called me up. They said, I want to have a real debate with you. So Thursday night, I'm going to have a debate with somebody who wants to call me out about a few things. I believe the
Who?
things that I believe for a fucking reason.
Who?
If you've ever seen this dude, he's in New York. He like runs around the streets and puts on like a mask. He looks like a rat. You know the rat guy. He like runs around. He's like, "Oh, I'm a fucking rat." He runs around in New York.
No.
Or he also does things where he like puts a mask on where he looks like an old man. He's a pretty big creator, but he does like all sorts of like illusions and stuff like that. His
What does he
content
want to
has
debate you
nothing.
about?
His content has nothing to do with politics, but he always contents or comments on my stuff, and he's so angry all the fucking time. And then called me out for a debate. He wants to debate me about this. He doesn't know who I am. This is why I'm so stoked for it. He wants to debate me about propaganda, like
That's fun.
like the way that rhetorical arguments influence straw man arguments. So it was like, okay, like all these things that I'm like, I'm super there for. I'm here for it, and I'm stoked
But
for the
one of you
conversation.
has to take the opposing side, right? So
Oh,
which one's going to argue for and which one's
mind
going to
control,
argue?
propaganda, and rhetorical arguments and their impact on straw man discussions.
On
No,
impacts on
he
what?
thinks the
Did
idea
you
of
say
like a
strong man?
straw man.
What's that?
So like if I say that like you believe a certain thing, but you don't actually believe it, it's like kind of creating
That's me.
an
That's
argument.
like
It's
me.
like creating an argument against an opinion that is loosely based on what your opposition believes.
Hmm.
It'll be
I'm
fun
a
though.
little bit
It'll definitely be
confused.
fun because I do not. I don't think I really disagree that much, and it will just be an interesting conversation.
Yeah, it sounds confusing. But you should definitely talk about MK Ultra because mind control and propaganda goes hand in hand with that.
That's part of it. That's part of what I'm going to bring up because if he wants to talk about the idea of mind control,
Yeah.
what better?
So what is he going to say that it doesn't exist and you're going to say that it does exist?
No, I
Or
think he's
like
going to say that I'm mind controlled.
wait,
He's
what?
going to, yeah, he's going to blame me.
He's going to say that you're mind controlling people? I'm so confused.
So my best bet, the best like description that I can give you, and I can't say for certain because I don't know what he's going to say, right? I don't know what his perspective is and what his opinion is, but I do know that he really has an adversarial reaction to anything that I post online, every single thing that I post. So he definitely disagrees with my perspective,
So
but
what are
he
you going
is
to
acting
argue? What is going to be your argument?
my argument.
Yeah,
I'm
like
going
your
to discuss
main
things as a rational
thesis.
human being. There's really no there, I don't think that a lot of the things that like I think that the things that I believe don't really need an argument because they're based in rational fact and realistic
No,
values
I
of
know, but
like
like what would be
what are we
what
going to
is going to
talk about?
be like your angle? Like, you know what I mean? What is the angle that you're debating of on that? Like that.
My angle is more so coming from it from the same point of view that I've come into all these discussions with, where it's like he thinks like he even like so many things he gets so angry about random things that like I don't even know what you're talking about, bro. It's like so yesterday I made a post that said something about race. I was asking a question about racism, like how do you feel about the idea of racism and this sort of thing. He's like, you would post this on MLK Day, blah blah
Mhm.
blah. I'm like, buddy, I didn't even know it was fucking Martin Luther King Day. He's like, then he responds, I bet half of your audience is white Americans. You clearly know what's going on. I'm like, buddy, first of all, half my audience is definitely Canadian. Hopefully, after the debate, it'll be half American, but it is not right now. And I didn't even know it was Martin Luther King Day until you just brought it up. Yet he believes that I am specifically saying certain things and like being provocative. Like I'm a provocative human being. I don't know. We just disagree with a lot of things. We're gonna have a good conversation. I don't know what he's gonna bring up some stuff. Um, like I said,
So, is he basically like accusing you of spreading propaganda? Is that what
yes,
his issue is?
yes. He
Okay.
thinks that I spread propaganda. I spread misinformation. I adhere to um
And
whatever the
see,
fuck I just said. Yeah, I don't know.
this is the
I put
thing.
up. You look at my story if you want to see. I put up a story and it has the description of what we're going to be debating. I don't even know right now. I
This
have
is
to
what I
still look
mean
it
is
up because
people take the internet way too seriously to the point where like I
that's
know
what I'm
that
saying. I
you
talked about this earlier. Can I just say this? I talked about this earlier. I don't even know why he wants to debate me. His content is not even political. He's a street performer. He does street performances,
yeah.
and like every time he posts anything political, his page gets like inundated with just like he
You
gets
know what you should
reported
do?
or he gets like
You know what you
unmonetized or
should do?
whatever.
You know what
I
you
just
should
want him
do?
to be safe. I don't no. Like why would you
You
want to
should
even do that?
you should create an argument around him spreading propaganda about something about rat propaganda, like something trolly, like something just like stupid, and like be like so serious, be like literally dead serious, and be like, this is why I think that you're spreading propaganda in your content, and why I think that like your content is problematic.
I'm actually into the real conversation. I do actually really want to know where he's coming from and why he thinks that I am because he's not from like you and I are both Canadian. He's from
Yeah.
New York. He's from New York, right? And so individuals are different. We have different opinions and different perspectives. You should satire him, says David.
Yeah,
I could
you
satire
should.
all day, every day. I have different accounts. If you ever see me and it doesn't say Todd up there, you don't see a red fucking label, it's probably going to be satire because it's not going to be me being serious or it's going to be me being a fucking asshole.
So
I've
can I ask
I've
you
definitely
something?
sorry for that, but yeah,
Can I ask you something? Like,
yeah, 100%.
do
Go ahead.
you take your